maybe I'll have some different thoughts and feelings when I review it. As I said, being a good critic means that we have to spend time with the work, go away from the work, come back to the work, and reevaluate and give it that respect that of more than just a once throwaway viewing. But I overall, instinctively at the end, have felt very pleased about that game. I'm not going to talk about how much it cost. I think I got it on sale, and I'm not going to talk about its value in terms of monetary value, but it's available for the Nintendo Switch, I believe, on sale at the moment. And if you've got a Nintendo Switch and you check that out and it turns out to be a relatively small amount of money, in your opinion, then it is worth it. Because it has been a really good, valuable experience. I certainly think it's the sort of thing that you might, I don't know, would you recommend that to somebody who's having a breakup? Would you recommend it to somebody who's having a breakup? It's difficult to help people sometimes when they're going through emotional difficulties that require processing and time. Even though you might have the right sort of advice, it doesn't make them feel better by magic. But there's a really good book that I read whenever I had a breakup. You know, there's a couple of really good books out there and things like that. I think this is one of those sort of things. But I think maybe it's even more valuable before a breakup. Maybe it's valuable to a young adult who is embarking on their first relationships and learning about their position within those relationships and their feelings. Maybe playing through this, just, how do I explain this? When I was young, when I was a kid, we didn't have clever computer games like this teaching us things. The media that I absorbed when I was young was even far more sexist than the media we have today, and my perceptions about what I could expect or hope for in a romance probably were strongly shaped by American ideals. Like, I can't explain the form of relationship, but what I can explain are some of the words that, like, jocks, cheerleaders, freaks, geeks, like these concepts, they were what was projected about young people when I was seeing them. I don't know how to best to explain this. Through watching a lot of media, you sort of get the idea that you're going to meet this right person. It's going to work a bit like a fairy story, or a bit like a, you know, one of these films where will they, won't they, and they end up and they do, and that, like, you know, you'll meet this cool person, they'll be amazing, but they won't realise it, and you'll get, you know, whatever, that sort of thing that's projected on the media. There's a lot more nuance and complexity in relationship projected in the media today, but even seeing it reflected in the media can't do what something like this does, which is to take you on an interactive experience where you are then literally questioning your values and your opinions of the relationships in the game, but your answers to those questions are influenced and informed by your values that you then question. So that's really interesting. I personally wouldn't recommend a game for someone who just broke up. I'd give them classic Kelvin advice. The best way to get over it is to go into someone else. We saw in the game, didn't we, that the comfortable, in between the relationships that broke down, there was that comforting relationship they had. Sometimes we call it a rebound. Sometimes it can be unhealthy, but sometimes it can be healthy. So I'm not gonna judge. I'm not able to judge everyone's relationships, but some rebounds can be unhealthy. But this game has shown us a way of having a relationship that might not be the relationship, but in a positive and healthy way. Even, maybe. That's worth discussing. So yeah, maybe wouldn't recommend this game to someone who's just broken up with someone. Maybe they might just feel bad and not take from it what they need to at the time. Maybe in the moment of breakup, it's hard to process things in the way this game helps you to process them. Maybe a game isn't the right thing, but Certainly it's something I would recommend to young adults and people who have experienced breakups. Even, it sounds weird, doesn't it? But, I don't often recommend media. And this is a big thing. This is a big thing to be able to say at the end of a piece of media, of art, to be able to recommend it to somebody else. You should see this. To be able to say that is quite a big thing. I don't care to say that about... I watch a lot of things on the television, pointing over there, because that's the room in my house where it is over there. I watch a lot of things on the television, I'm sure you do too, but we don't go around recommending them, not with intent in the same way as I am this piece of media. I would recommend people play this. If someone said to me, what are you doing on your stream? I'd say, oh, we played this game. It was actually really good. You might enjoy it. If it's only a couple of quid on Steam or Nintendo Switch shop, it's worth your time. That's it. It's worth your time. So its value is dependent on how you value your time. But in my opinion, it's worth my time. It's been worth our time. It's worth your time. Yeah, that gets a gold star. So that's our first gameplay. That's our first. It's not our first gameplay anyway, is it? We did Earthbound, and we're still going to play Earthbound because I'm committed to finishing that game. But sadly, I can't devote as much time to Earthbound as all the other wonderful things on stream as we want to do. So I will finish it, and we'll do an hour or two every week, and I might improve and get through it a bit more. But Broken Circle has already given us such a lot more to talk about. Broken Circle comes from a place that's years further on than Earthbound. Earthbound was made in the 90s. There was a lot of naivety about game design then. Broken Circle doesn't suffer from that naivety. It is clearly well thought out by people who understand the medium and have chosen to use it to its advantage. They've chosen to bring something out that a game can do. They've chosen to not just the mechanics or make you addicted or a microtransaction, but they've used something in the game, the way a game works, to ask us questions, to enable us to look at things from somebody else's point of view, to feel empathy. And they've done it, again, I'll reiterate this because I think it's a really good point to make. They've done it with a Broken Circle. They haven't tried to create the most detailed image of a human and perfect eye movements, and they haven't tried to they haven't got one of those clever studios where you can see all the movements of my arm and it's translated into the movements of the character. It's just a little circle rolling around, and that's enough for us in our collective humanity to apply feelings to and draw feelings from. So that's really cool, isn't it? That's really cool. Journey of the Broken Circle. It's just a circle. I'll break your circle in a minute. It wasn't just a circle, it wasn't just a balloon. Oh, I tell you, I'm having trouble seeing. My circle's right broken today. Oh. It wasn't just, it was more than that. It was part of a story, part of a narrative. And that's why this game, which we will talk about in the art review, has won awards for narrative. And it's really important that we alight on that point just before I finish today. Not every game is a narrative game. Not every game wants to be a narrative game. Not every game needs to be a narrative game. One of the beauties of gaming is it's a blank canvas that you can create, and you can create in many different ways. That's good. They've chosen to create a narrative game, and I think that's why it is so successful as a narrative game. And when we talk about games in categories, we talk about shooters as you talk about looter shooters, RPGs, these sort of things. Narrative is not such a commonly used genre, and not so many people sit down to make a narrative game. And in its title, in its genre, narrative could, without excess sophistication, without, in a very base way, narrative could be as simple as just telling a story. Press A to continue, press A to continue, showing you pictures from a picture book, press A to continue. In a way, on another part of the spectrum, Call of Duty is a narrative game. isn't it, in a way? Like, you go along, you kill the baddies in the zone, and then you press R to jump out the plane, or you press R to thing, or you press... In the early days, it was criticised for that. In some parts of the story, it just arbitrarily asked you to press A to grab hold of the man's hand, to press A to knife the thing, and because it wanted to keep you engaged as a player with its narrative, but it didn't really know how. Whereas Journey of the Broken Circle has managed to translate or transmit that narrative, sometimes with clear signposts, sometimes with a little bit of, here is the part of the thing we want you to understand, sometimes with a bit of clear signposting, but more often than not with a concept that you're allowed to feel and play with and then discard, and your feelings of progress throughout a game, but your feelings of progress and how they're accelerated or impeded by the relationship you have with your missing piece with the mechanic in the game. So that's better than just press A to grab hand, press B to turn page. Interactivity doesn't simply mean someone is pressing a button and interacting. Interactivity at this level is, they've created another space for us to interact on, a mental space for us to have a conversation, a dialect, no, that might be the wrong word, that's a Hegel, isn't it? Hegel and dialectics. A discussion, I'll just use more simple terms because we know what they mean. A discussion with the work. The work speaks to us, we speak back to the work. We think about things, we move on, they change the way we think, they don't change the way we think, whatever. We are thinking, it is causing us to think. I think that's a really... So, they've decided to make a narrative game. All games... not all games. Does Block Breaker have a narrative? You're breaking those blocks. Does Pac-Man have a narrative? I don't know. A lot of games have narratives, but they don't lean as heavily on the narrative in that interactive form. They're just a story, and then you kill the baddies, and then there's just some story, and then we do some more shooting, and then there's just some story, and then you got to figure this puzzle out and do your platforming skills, and then there's some story, and then there's some platforming skills. Intertwining the two, the narrative and the gameplay. Again, as an art critic, it's important not to say one is better, one is worse. You might enjoy one more than the other. You might enjoy one more than the other at different times in your life or at different times in the day. So it's important not to say better or worse. But I feel they have been very successful in intertwining the narrative and the gameplay. And by calling it a narrative game, I think does it almost an injustice. Because it's not just a story that you press A to advance. It's a dialogue. Yeah, sorry. I'm sorry for not reading your suggestion in chat sooner, because that's exactly the right word. Thank you for being smarter than me. A dialogue is exactly what's happening, yeah. And it's really successful, in my opinion, that this game has managed to achieve that. I didn't feel such a same dialogue from Call of Duty. I'm not comparing this any further with Call of Duty. I just use that as a comparison for that reason, to highlight what this game is doing. So I'm not going to be so disparaging of other things. I'm not. I mean, I enjoyed playing. God, I put the hours into Call of Duty when it was a one-player campaign back in the day. One of the things I used to love, I'm going to just quickly digress, just to say something positive about Call of Duty, so I don't just sound like a moaning mini. But one of the things I used to love so much was it's an opportunity to reenact serious battles that have happened in history, to get an idea of how people were feeling when they stormed Normandy, and things that I have so much respect for in history, that the people that did them, I have so much respect for what they did, and an opportunity to see it reimagined in a video game for a new generation to experience, I thought was very positive, kind of important. And then it went down a way that took away from that thing that I liked about it, so I don't enjoy it so much anymore. In fact, I haven't even bought the latest one. It's just how things are. It's just my taste, isn't it? But This was to my taste. Journey of the Broken Circle. This was to my taste. I appreciated the way it told its story. I appreciated the way its story intertwined with our own feelings. And I'm happy with it. So you be good, my little puckos. You be good. You have been good. If you can't be good, you're naughty.